Hello and welcome to the Hudson Records Listening Club for my solo album Meanders. So this is a record I recorded in January last year. It's entirely solo, nothing but me and my concertina. Recorded by the good Andy Bell of Hudson Records over a couple of days at Woodworm Studio in Oxfordshire. So without any further ado, let's have a listen to the first track, which is called The Brink of July.
I have to say it was one of my ambitions to record a solo concertina album growing up.
Yeah, I was thinking of Andy really when I planned to do this.
Was this written in July?
It's actually, this is called The Brink of July because it didn't have a name for ages, and then when I was starting to do some duo work with Emily Portman, it just matches her song The Brink of June really, really well, so it just seemed like an obvious name to steal.
Yeah, I wondered that actually.
Yeah. I'm mostly someone who plays in ensembles, and I never really planned to make a solo record, or if I did, I thought it would be with a set of other musicians. And then just over the couple of years before actually doing this, I just started to find I was really enjoying playing by myself, and I had enough options and enough layers of technique and ideas and so on to make it work.
I have to say I wasn't, because we just did it in 2 days, didn't we? And I wasn't sure what we were going to do for 2 days, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, because you get most things first take or whatever. So I was like, well, how are we going to fill up 2 days of recording 12 tracks? But we did. I mean, it was relaxed, wasn't it? It wasn't a stressful session.
No, it was... I felt there had to be a deadline, I could have sat at home and set up and recorded myself, and there'd have been no end point. It would never have finished, And I thought 2 days that'd be doable, but not too comfortable. Yeah, I don't remember much that took more than 2 takes, maybe 3 at most.
That's actually Rob Harbron tune. That it's Rob Harbron.
Yeah, actually, most of the tunes on the record are self-composed. I've been a tune writer for a long time, and I guess one of the reasons that I ended up making this record was finding I just had an increasing number of tunes that didn't quite fit for any other ensemble. And then once I decided I was actually going to do it and put some dates in the diary, quite a lot of other tunes came to my head that seemed appropriate. And these two actually are 2 tunes that never really fitted another band, but I suddenly found that they worked really well solo. So the first one's called Like a Christmas Tree, which comes from the name comes from a funny encounter on the canal towpath when I lived on a narrowboat at dusk with a little snuffling pug dog. And then it's followed by a tune called Polly in the Wood, which I kind of first came into my head as I walked along and watched a happy Labrador exploring the scrub. I guess this tune's as close to a march as I've ever written, really. Seems funny to write a march for a little pug dog.
It's quite stereo, isn't it? Because that was a conundrum. It's always been a bit of a conundrum. I think I remember recording you in the early days when I didn't really understand. Well, I still don't understand concertinas. I still can't remember which one you even play, but you know, I remember having a conversation about the pan of concertina recording. Maybe I was going too heavy on it at the time, you know, being new to folk, and yeah, but it is quite stereo actually. But it's a nice stereo. It's not like ooh, you know.
Yeah. So the concertina I play, a scale is mixed over the left and right hand. So if you separate the two hands, really stereo, it'll sound quite surprising. But if you put the whole thing right down the middle, it sounds very. You lose a bit of the space, and it's actually harder to pick the tune out from the chords. So yeah, I wouldn't have wanted this to go much further apart, but I really like, because we had mics in the middle as well, didn't we? We had
a big Cole. I think we had a Coles big ribbon, BBC Coles in the middle. We had loads of mics, didn't we?
Yeah.
We probably got some photos of it, but
yeah, there were at least 7 mics involved.
But I don't know if all of them ended up in the mix, or I think there was a blend of them. I think the room mics I was expecting to use more of, and we didn't use as much of them. But I think we had a couple that were kind of like a metre above and pointing down.
Yeah.
So normally I'd put them fairly close if you're doing ensemble stuff. But these were just that bit further away, and I think we used those mainly.
Yeah.
Neumann 170s for the mic buff. It's what default on a piano as well, really. What's going through your head when you record something like this, or like when you just play? Because like it's pretty, tempo. It's really steady, and you've got. Do you actually think about anything?
Usually, because the reason I called the record Meanders is partly because I wanted, there was a reference to sort of the water and the, backwatery kind of thing. But also a lot of the tunes come from an experience or a walk or an encounter or something. So quite often I've just got a picture in my head of, it's like a postcard of whatever inspired the tune. And for this one it is a little patch on one of the commons that I walk on near here. And they've actually cut a lot of the scrub back now, so it doesn't look the same, but I've kind of got this picture of that when I play it. But then sometimes it's just thinking about. Usually I'm thinking about what might happen next, or if I'm playing with other people, I'm thinking about what they've just done. I'm not usually thinking about what I've just done. Once it's happened, it's too late to think about it. And next up we've got a couple of tunes. These are tunes that I only actually wrote because I knew I was going to make this record. Or rather I only finished writing them. So these are two... actually, I'm looking at the wrong track. These are two tunes that again come from interesting experiences, I guess, or encounters. The first one I wrote... In India, I did a British Council residency Nagaland in northeast India. It was a collaborative project with some of the musicians from the UK and a lot of local musicians, one of whom was this guy who played this fantastic homemade one-string fiddle, which basically had a range of 4 notes. And I really wanted us to have a way of playing music together, and I wrote this little tune. It's like a Morris jig. It's kind of slightly inspired by the tune Saturday Night, but it's only got 4 notes in it. And then the other tune, the tune after it's called Kindling, and that is a Morris tune. I wrote it when I used to do a lot of playing with Morris Offspring a long time ago. So it's a 1-string jig and Kindling. That slight kind of double note effect is literally playing in octaves. There's no clever register switch you can do on the concertina. You just have to actually play in octaves.
Are the octaves tend to be on the same side of the concertina?
Always on the opposite side. They're always on the opposite side. So that doesn't.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so on the English concertina, both hands are totally involved all the time. If you're playing a scale, it's hand to hand all the time.
Which concertina? Because you had a choice of a few concertinas when we did this, didn't you?
For a long time I've used one concertina for everything, gigs and recording and everything, which is a tenor treble English concertina made by Wheatstone in the 1930s. A few years ago I got another very similar instrument, but it's got a much more mellow sound. It's more like a harmonium really. And that is on a couple of tracks. It's not on many, but it's definitely on 2 tracks, I think.
Yeah, because I think we thought we might end up using that for a lot of it, didn't we? Because it would be too, you know, it's a lot of concertina to take 45 minutes of concertina, so...
Yeah. As I think you pointed out at some points during the recording process.
Yeah. So I think we thought we'd use the more mellow one, because it might be sort of softer on the ear, but actually, sounds great.
But then we put all the mics, even the close mics, we put a lot further away than I would once have done. Like I'd once have been putting mics, I don't know, 6 inches or a foot away, and yet the close mics were still far enough away that the sound stuck together by the time it got to them. Which is a big thing that I've learnt really, partly from working with you actually.
I've taught you something.
This bit is where they dance the slows, the jumpy up bit of the Morris. And you can hear a little bit of foot noise in the background there, which I think is really important. It's a big part of my playing. It's actually what has changed, if you like, that's made it possible for me to feel like I can just sit and play by myself, is that I've kind of got this, the foot is this support mechanism, that little bit of background rhythm. Yeah, so the next couple of tunes, I was on tour with Leverett, and I woke up in the middle of the night in a travel lodge. I think it was Trowel Services on the M1, and the opening phrase of the first tune was going around my head, and a good while later, a good few weeks later, when it was already a tune I was happy with, I realised where I nicked that phrase from, and it's from it's the first track of the most recent album by the band Churches, which me and Sam have been listening to in the car an awful lot on that tour. So there's a little guilty reference there. And then the second tune, basically I woke up with this tune in my head and turned the light on and wrote it down, turned the light off, tried to go back to sleep, and then the second tune was there as well. And that doesn't happen to me very often. So I called them the Midnight Shottishes.
I think he played these a lot on tour with other people, like in sound checks and stuff.
This has been a sound check regular for a good while.
Yeah, I think I've had this fairly buried in my brain for a while, yeah. Say it's pretty impressive because, like, as well, I wondered when we were starting out doing the album, like, what, you know, how we were going to be able to shape tracks, like, dynamically and sort of sonically, like, you know, because obviously the Concertina's got a fairly big range, but it's not like super bassy, you know.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you've not got like that melodeon thing where Squeezy or Andy, not that Andy does it that much, but put a lot of bottom end in or whatever to give that boost and that kick on.
Yeah.
You know, but it has a, you know, that shape, but
yeah, the lowest note on my concertina is only one note lower than the bottom string of a viola, so it's really not a bass instrument. So I kind of think of them as basses or chords, but it's really just an alto instrument. But
yeah.
I guess I've sort of figured out how to give the impression that there's more happening than there is. Like, I'm often only putting one or two extra notes in per bar, but it's about where you put them and how you build up from them. And I guess it's figuring that out that's meant doing this record was actually, first of all, a possibility, and then a thing that I actually really wanted to do, you know.
Quite a bit of finger noise on this.
Yeah, the finger noise is just, it's really part of the sound. It's really, and if you do, I mean, I have sometimes tried with like denoising software to take it away, and it actually takes away part of the definition, and it's not right. So it's part
I had that on
music.
another album, on a previous listening club, on the Martin Simpson one, where Andy Cutting had played some one row melodeon or whatever, and it was proper clattery. It's great, but the mastering guy had said, "Is that meant to be on there, or are they digital clips?" I was like, "No, it's one row melodeon." That's what it sounds like. You know, this feels really full and like it's picking off,
this,
you know.
This is in the key that gives me access to that lowest note. I quite often, when I'm playing by myself, I'll shift the keys round to really fit the instrument as best I can. Sometimes I'll change the key because a particular key sounds better in a certain room as well. Like sometimes I have to go for a brighter key in a certain room or the other way round.
I had that with it's great tune. I had that with a tabla player once, like years and years and years ago, like I don't know, probably 20 years ago, a gig at Leeds Uni, and I was just doing sound. I'd done quite a lot of stuff with Indian musicians at Leeds College of Music and stuff, and one of the guys had said, "Oh, no, he wasn't tabla. It was my mate who was playing tabla, a guy called Bhupinder, and he was playing with a kind of an Indian flute player, and this guy was like big shot Indian flute player, and he chose his flutes based on the sound of the room. Like he was so tuned into the room, it was crazy. I mean, at that point, I was just like figuring out how to use a mixing desk, you know, and and I was just blown away by this guy, just going, and then nope, that's too bright. I'm going to use these ones tonight instead, you know.
That's the thing, you know. You asked what I'm thinking of when I'm playing these tunes, and often it's listening to what's coming back from the room rather than what's coming out of the instrument right in front of me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next tunes are 3 traditional tunes. I didn't do an awful lot of traditional tunes on here, but these are 3 tunes. I grew up in Cumbria, and I didn't know when I started playing folk music that there really was any from Cumbria. But these are 3 tunes from the manuscript of a fiddle player from the Lake District called William Irwin. And the first one's called the Calgarth Hornpipe, and then the Keswick Bonnie Lasses Hornpipe, and then the Iron and Coke Hornpipe.
You ever been to the Keswick Pencil Museum?
When I was a little kid, yeah. School trip.
Yeah. Did you buy a massive pencil?
that detail's gone.
That's standard.
Yeah. I think these tunes kind of should be played dotted, like slow dotted hornpipes, like you'd have for clog dancing. But I just thought I sort of tried to go for a slightly more upbeat version of them that just hints at that dottedness. And there's no chords on this set either. I just wanted to play the tunes by themselves. You must have been
that little
fiddle
phrase
player.
there was just like this. That is like the kind of phrase with, I would say, a tune player that doesn't have your experience that would rush. People would rush that phrase there, like.
Yeah, well,
really
I would have done for a long time as well.
It's really controlled, like. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no, just thinking this William Owen must have been really quite some fiddle player to make these tunes work. They're really athletic little tunes. And they're in these are the keys they're in his book as well. The first one's in F, this one's in D. Third one goes up to E major, and that's what's in the manuscript rather than me being clever.
How old is this?
How old is he? Oh, when was he?
This tune.
Oh, 1850s, 1860s, maybe 1870s, that sort of thing.
So he's probably not with us anymore.
I think not.
No.
Although you never know up there.
Yeah.
There's an additional link with this tune actually, which is that the concertina I first played belonged to my great grandfather. He played it before I was born. He died before I was born, but that was the first concertina that I played, and he was a guard on freight trains carrying coal and iron ore from Cumberland over to Teesside. So there's an extra link with this tune, which I only really thought of once I'd already started playing it and realised what a total banger of a tune it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, next up we've got a little tune called Mill Lane, and there must be hundreds of mill lanes across England and beyond, but this one was a little lane in Dorset, a little lovely shady watery lane that I was walking down, and this was a tune that I sang into my phone, I think, and as I walked along. And it's a pretty simple tune, but I've just tried to sort of arrange it on the instrument in interesting ways, so we'll see. I remember thinking of like flute players, like that kind of Breton flute thing, and Kerry Rhys Matthews as well from Wales has these lovely kind of elemental flute tunes, and that's what I was trying to capture with this tune.
The whole thing was recorded at Woodworm, which again, previous Listening Club listeners would. We did most of Martin Simpson's last album there. We've done quite a few things there. It's just if people have been watching with me on it, there's a handful of studios I end up going to, mainly because they're good and they work for this kind of music and they're reasonably priced, which helps. But maybe we did some of Sam Sweeney's Unfinished Violin album there, and you came and played.
That's right. I did the concertina bits for Unfinished Violin there. And I had to be in the booth for that, but I had a little play in the room and really liked the room because it's a double height room, so you just get that. But it's not a really echoey. It's not really. It's not really
parquet
roomy
floor, isn't it? And and it's Fairport it's Dave Pegg's Fairport Convention's old studio near Cropredy, a few villages down from Cropredy. And it's got lovely equipment, nice SSL desk and nice PMC, massive PMC speakers, ridiculous. Like take up your whole room size speakers. But we did it all there, and then we edited it, and not that there was a lot of editing to do, but edited it and mixed it all there, didn't we? Like, and then you thought you might do some more afterwards, but you didn't end up doing anything, did you?
I went away. We started, 10 o'clock day one, and I was in the car at 6 o'clock on day two with basically finished mixes. All I did was add a little hint more reverb, and just boosted the overall level by a few dB, but that was all there was.
I think the reverb we used. Did we use the Bricasti?
Yeah, we used the Bricasti,
which is a hardware reverb made by. I always call it the Rick Astley, but made by some guys who
Bricasti
left,
and it's
but the Bricasti was some people that left Lexicon years ago, and they sort of modelled it on their foot, the legendary Lexicon reverb, digital reverbs. But it sounds great, and it's mixed with the room reverb as well, isn't it? It's like they're great.
And I've found the Waves recreation of that same reverb, so the extra reverb was the same one, you know.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A couple more traditional tunes. So 3/2 hornpipes. A lot of the time when I'm playing with Leverett and other people, the tunes we're really kind of digging into in this 3/2 rhythm. So these are 3/2 hornpipes. A tune called Women and Wine, and a fantastic tune called the Tumbler's Hornpipe.
So is this one you do with Leverett as well?
Leverett have never done this one. Me and Sam have played tumblers, but we've never found an outlet for it. Hasn't quite made it into Leverett's.
How do you choose which ones of your tunes you write you take to Leverett, or ones you find you take to Leverett, or whoever else?
I probably take more of them than end up getting done. You know, like sometimes Leverett will play around a tune, and it'll be fine, and then we'll just never play it again, and then that's one that I'll take somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't think Leverett have ever played. I don't think we've even tried either of these. Tumbler's Hornpipe's a tricky one because there's another quite similar tune in the same book, so
Right.
it's often you'll start one and realise you're actually playing the other. Both of these tunes are in a book called John of the Green, The Cheshire Way, put together by a guy called John Offord from London. And if people are interested in traditional 3/2 hornpipes, that book's got more of them from different sources than any other. And if we're talking about books, I should mention this lovely little tune book that I've just made.
That does look good. I've not seen that.
Yeah, I'll send you
one of them for Helen for Christmas.
It's got 54 tunes in it. Basically all the tunes of mine that have ever seen the light of day, and the traditional tunes of this record. So if any tune players are interested, it's my tune book.
How do you write it for Concertina? Have you just written the tune like a normal?
Yeah, because when I'm playing one of these tunes, the chords and the harmonies and the variations are not fixed. If I was playing it again tomorrow, I'd be doing different chords and so on.
Yeah.
So I just think single line melody. In the book I've put some suggested chords, but if you go through them, you'll discover that half the time that's not what I'm actually playing.
Very regal sound in this one, isn't it? Bit of bass rumble there.
Yeah.
Knocked a mic or something. Someone shut a door.
It does happen, that, doesn't it? You know, there'll be two takes. There'll be the one with the rumble on it and the one without, and the better takes the one with the truck going past. So that's the one you use.
Yeah, you do get a little bit of trucks going past at that studio, isn't it? It's quite funny if there's a little edit. Like there might have been a couple of split notes here and there to swap in.
Yeah, the only edits we did were a couple of notes. We weren't doing any.
No, it wasn't like a whole first
takes.
Section of this and a second section of that. It was just like, oh, there was a split note, let's change that, or there was a noise outside or something. But yes, it's a bit of a mad kind of thing to get into when you're trying to find a little section to replace in something so low like this. Like, it's there's so many notes going on just to try and find the right bit.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that bit of the tune, this is a thing that I find with tunes, is that I'll be like, well, but that bit of tune sounds exactly like that bit of the tune, but it's not, it's a different bit of tune, you know, and the A's and the B's sound very similar or whatever, and you're trying to swap bits in.
Yeah, that's the magic of it, Andy.
Nice.
So the next tune is a tune that I made up a good while ago, actually, after a day out in Cornwall, and I went to a place called Kynance Cove. Had this lovely swim, kind of blissful, clear water and so on. And then at the point that I turned to swim back to the beach, I just felt a hint of the outgoing tide, and I was in no danger at all. It wasn't any sort of near-death experience or anything, but just that little feeling of the sea pulling you is a pretty powerful thing, and it kind of inspired this tune. So this is my swimming tune.
Did you get your concertina tuned for this recording? Can't remember.
No, I didn't. I had it open to clear a bit of fluff out from a reed, and I noticed the mark for when it was last tuned, and it was either 2002 or 2005.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember you. I don't know if I knew you back then, but I don't remember you ever having it tuned, yeah.
No. The funny thing is, you know, I'll get to a certain place and I'll play a little bit in a sound check and think, oof, God, this thing's a bit out of tune, I should get it sorted. But it'll be different the next day, or it'll be different in the gig when the humidity changes and the temperature changes. So I'm just kind of sticking with it, really.
Well, it doesn't sound bad.
Thanks. This might be the quieter concertina, actually. This might be my second concertina, if you like.
It does sound a bit warmer, doesn't it? Didn't know if it was the key, but the bottom end definitely sounds good.
They're tricky things to tune because you have to get into the whole thing of tempering. You don't want them totally evenly tempered, otherwise everything sounds equally bad, you know. So different keys will sound different, and sometimes it's not different in a way that you quite want, but you've just got to go with it.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the other concertina. The bottom end sounds totally different.
Yeah, it's different.
Because you wrote this one, right? Yeah, this is the swimming tune. When you write this, like, and Are you hoping and expecting other people to take it and play it and do their own thing with? Because other people do play a lot of your tunes, don't they? You know, so.
Yeah, I guess there's some that I really want people to play, and there's some that I'm chuffed if they do, and there's some that I'm kind of not surprised when people don't. But people are very welcome to. You know, I wouldn't have done a tune book if I hadn't been really happy for people to play them. But it's hard. You know, if someone wanted to make this tune work, they'd have to sort of make it their own, and I'd want them to make it their own. You know, I wouldn't want people learning the exact chords. That
you don't get offended then if someone, you know, changes the time signature and does their own thing. No,
I don't actually, because you know, I've done that myself to so many traditional tunes, and someone wrote those tunes, you know, and I've done it to tunes other people have written. I've kind of thought, I love that tune, but I'd love it if it went like this even more, you know. Actually, the next tune is a traditional tune that I've tweaked quite heavily. It's a tune called The Ship That Never Returned, and it's from a manuscript from close to where I live in Gloucestershire, or not that far away, a place called Snows Hill Manor, which is now an RSPB National Trust property. And there's a manuscript there of kind of dance tunes, you know, that were probably played for the wealthy people. And this is a tune called The Ship That Never Returned, and I discovered it's actually a music hall song, or a popular song of the day, I think. Anyway, it seemed to be in 5/4 in the Glostrad archive, and I sort of regularised it into 5/4 and tweaked it around a bit. So yeah.
It's really well balanced as an instrument, isn't it, that concertina? Because, you know, there's no way of changing the...
No.
It's not like the right-hand mic and the left-hand mic, and you can sort of balance it up on the recording. It's just what comes out is what comes out.
Yeah, no, that's a thing that for ages I didn't know I needed to be careful about that, and I'd do a recording and I'd put everything I had into the playing and listen back, and it would just be a mess, you know. And then I kind of started to figure out how to not feel like I had to play everything all the time. But yeah, that balance, if you play a big chord below the tune, the physics of the instrument just mean it will drown the tune out. What you can do is stuff with the bellows that picks out the tune over the harmony notes. Which I guess is what I try to do. The other thing you can do is hold the tune notes on for longer than the harmony notes, which is sort of a big thing that I'm trying to do in there.
What, and that then takes more air from the harmony notes, basically?
Yeah, the bottom, the bigger the note, or the lower the note, the bigger the reed, the more air goes through it, the louder it is. But if you only play the loud note for a fraction of a second and hold the tune note on for longer. So next up we've got a tune that I have done with Leverett, and we did record it, but it didn't actually make it onto the record, so I felt it was alright to do it here. It's a tune called Piggery, which I wrote after Leverett's, I think it was our third ever gig, in this fantastic converted former piggery in Suffolk. And I wrote it in the car the next day. I was in the passenger seat. Concertina is a great thing in the car. And then the second tune is a tune called Alvin's. I did used to play this with Nancy Kerr and James Fagan back in the day when we used to play as a trio. So these are a couple more kind of schottisches, really.
I'd like to get Nancy and James on the listening club, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, should get them on. I should give them a text. Be good to do this. I used to love that Station House album you did with them.
Yeah,
was
this
it Station
is on
House? It was Station House.
Yeah.
Was this on it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You did that up in Robin Hood's Bay, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
Lolly.
Yeah.
Quite interesting recording this album, like, and sort of production techniques with it, because obviously there's no production trickery involved. I mean, there's no room for that. You know, it's like it's a concertina.
Yeah.
But it's quite a different approach. Like, I guess on the outside it might appear kind of fairly straightforward. It's like put Rob in a room, get a nice sound and record it. But it definitely, we did have discussions, didn't we, about little bits
definitely.
about, you know, and the dynamics of something and how something grows, or, you know, there might have been little sections where I'm going, I think that bit's rushing, maybe,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know. But
Definitely, and it, you know, if you're gonna do 2 takes of a thing, or even 1 take of a thing, and say, yeah, that's fine. As an artist, you know, you need to trust someone else to confirm that, or if you need to do another take, you know, it's yeah. So that was really
it
very
was
cool.
definitely
I mean,
about being really the whole thing, just being chilled, and we were just really focused on concertinas for 2 days,
Yeah.
you know, and it was like,
yeah, I knew what tunes were possible. I think I had 1 set up my sleeve that didn't make it on, and I kind of had an idea of how they'd go, but nothing was fixed apart from that. And there were definitely some points where, you know, Andy said that one's a bit long, or it's not so much happening there, and
let's have a break.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's have a cup of tea and then come back to it, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the proof of the role of the producer, you know, I make records for other people. I've got recording stuff, I've got mics, I've got a room that I like playing in, but I didn't make it by myself. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't got a room with a person I trusted and kind of made that thing happen. There's a different thing that happens when you go somewhere with someone to make a thing happen, rather than you just keep churning out ideas until it feels like it fits together. You know, no one really makes records like that.
We had a lovely Indian, didn't we? Went for a nice Indian on the
Nice
end
curry.
of the first night, yeah. I think it was a Monday night.
Yeah, that's right.
The little
We were
village.
the only people in there. Monday
Only
night
people
in
Indian.
January.
Where was it? Bloxham or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
I guess the tune coming up, the last tune, is kind of shows how relaxed you were within the session, because you kind of wandered back in and said, you know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the tunes on here, I knew them, but I'd never played them in public by myself particularly. Some of them I had, but most of them not, because I don't really play solo, you know. And yeah, this is the final track, and as Andy says, this one when I turned up at the studio, I only had the A part. It's a tune called the January Blackbird, and it was, I mean, if it was a week old when I set off to the studio, I'd be surprised. I was out for a walk here where I live in Gloucestershire, and it was a kind of dusky, mizzly January evening, and I just heard a little bit of Blackbird song, like that kind of sub-song that they do before they properly start singing. And it sort of inspired the A part of this tune, but I hadn't finished it. I didn't even really know where I was going with it. And then the second morning at the studio, the first day had been mizzly and cold and rainy, and then the second morning was just beautiful and clear and cold. And I just went out for a little walk up the hill, and on the way back down the hill, I wasn't sort of trying to finish this tune, but it just came together in my head. And I think you were ready to go when I came back to the studio, so we just did it straight off.
Yeah.
I think we did a second take and it was pointless. We went with the first take.
Yeah.
So this is the January Blackbird.
I think this is my favourite on the album.
I think it's mine as well.
You know who'd do a great version of this? May Monday, Karen Tweed and Timo.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is probably inspired a little bit by that and Timo's lovely chordal progressions.
Absolutely beautiful.
So thank you very much for listening to this Hudson Records Listening Club of my solo CD Meanders, recorded by Andy Bell and distributed by Hudson Records, and available from all the regular outlets. Thanks for listening. See you again.